I'm Bob Spinozzi, and welcome to Small Town. Now tonight we're going to do some serious trash talking, and I do mean that literally. October 2012 was the second year anniversary of our pay-as-you-throw system at the town transfer station. Now during these past 2+ years, we've significantly reduced the cost of trash disposal and likewise significantly increased our amount of recycled materials. You know, the subject rarely comes up, but the U.S. has created this enormous throwaway society. And let me put that in perspective. The U.S. is the #1 trash-producing country in the world at 1,609 pounds per person per year. We're only 5% of the world's population, yet we generate 40% of the world's trash. Now, to help sort things out and show us the progress we've made with pay-as-you-throw, I'm happy to have with us Jim Clyde, Littleton's operations manager, and Tessa David, director of the North Central Regional Solid Waste Cooperative, also known as Mass TOSS. And now I'm going to toss a few questions your way. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. Jim, I'm going to start out right away with this graph that we're showing on the air. This shows the dramatic decrease in solid waste tonnage since 2010. When we started this, did you expect this kind of reaction?
We had hoped for that. We did look at some other towns. It's been a proven effective program, so that's why Littleton chose to go that route.
And so on the other end, did you initially expect that we were going to have so many recyclables out there?
Yeah, the market's change constantly, and we have to keep upgrading. That's sort of the problem with our facility is we're kind of small area, so we can't really increase all that much. You know, we do what we can, and it seems to be working.
Well, it's a great system, and I know that you also had checked out initially cost comparison with curbside pickup, and as I recall, the price for that would have been astronomical.
Yeah, there's kind of an issue with our trash system is not in the tax base of the town, so it's really hard to, how do you charge people for the curbside pickup, and that's sort of why that didn't really work that well. Plus, it is expensive as well.
Yeah, and this kind of levels the playing field. You bag them and you pay for what you're throwing out. It's fair to everyone.
Yes.
What else is really nice is at the transfer station, you can take so many more things that you would not be able to leave at the curb for pickup as well. So at the recycling center, there's a number of other items you can take, like batteries and oil. You would not be able to set that off at the curb.
Right. And now these recyclables, there's another big plus to them. They generate some cash.
Yes, they do. And as Jim said, it varies. It can go up and down, but what's nice is because they've been separated out, the vendors want to use it and they can do all sorts of things with it, pelletize it, and then turn it into products such as fleece jackets. So they can turn your #1 bottles into a fleece jacket or clothing, other clothing.
Okay. Tessa, exactly what is Mass TOSS and how did you get involved?
Mass TOSS, DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, about 2005, made some grant monies available and for the towns to get together and work on taking a look at what are the best practices, get some technical assistance, and take a look at how they might best be able to handle their recycling. So 12 of the towns have gotten together and took advantage of that grant and formed the cooperative, and that's what Mass TOSS is.
Okay, so we're, the 12 towns are all obviously in the same area.
Yes, they're all in the same area,
okay.
in Central Mass.
Now, you also head up a hazardous waste center, and I want to get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
But you also have another, a very affectionate title, you're the Groton's Queen of Recycling. And you also just won an award. Tell us about that.
Thank you. Well, I tend to, because my email's out there, recycle@charter.net, people tend to ask me then questions about unusual items, and I'll take a look and see how they can be handled. Like somebody was asking about tennis shoes, and annually we have a Recycle Your Reusable Days that the towns get together and do, and we'll have like tennis recycling. So several people have emailed me and said, "Oh, you're the recycling queen," but that's better than I've been called earlier on the bag lady, and I like that one. I like recycling queen better.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So at Mass Recycle, they have an annual event where they select a person or industries and everyone who have done recycling and were particularly successful. And I was fortunate enough to work with a number of the towns together to set up the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Center and work with MassToss and work with textile recycling. So I won an award of Recycler of the Year.
And Jim, we in Littleton, I'm sure promote. We don't take any hazardous waste at all. Is that correct?
No.
So we would promote the Devon's facility.
Yeah, through the Light Department helps fund Littleton's portion, through Light and Water Department because it helps, with the environment. So they felt pretty strongly about doing that. And anybody in Littleton can participate in the program. You have to pay for the materials that you get rid of, but you have 22 different days now where you can bring it versus Littleton would have one every 1 or 2 years. It could be 3 or 4 years. So now you have a much greater availability of disposal.
Well, we're at the end of the year here, so if we want to start doing some spring cleaning next year, when are your
Yes.
first days next year?
Well, in case it comes up by December, the next is December 5th, and which is a Wednesday, and the Saturday the 8th, and then we'll also for the spring will be March 6th and 9th from 9 until 12 o'clock at 9 Cook Street, the rear. Are the next dates. It's the first Wednesday following Saturday of the months March through December.
Okay.
So.
All right. Now, while we're talking about it, let's get into some of the things that you do take and maybe some of the things that you don't take.
Well, what's wonderful is take a look at key words. If you see on your product poison, danger, warning, or caution, those are the kinds of items you know should be brought to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Center. If you don't see those words, and for instance, if it doesn't have pesticides in something like your fertilizers, if it's just a fertilizer, then you don't need to bring that. So that's a tip on something that you don't need to bring. If it says that it's organic, more than not, it's not going to say caution, warning. That's something that you don't need to bring. Oftentimes people believe that because they see this long list of chemicals that it's something needs to be brought, but that's not true because everything's made of chemicals, right? Everything at a certain level is made of chemicals. So unless it has those warning words, and then of course if you have any questions, you can go to devonshhw.com and there's a flyer that runs you through each of the areas of your house, from your kitchen to under the sink in the bathroom, to in the garage. It gives you little tips on where you might find something that needs to be brought, such as your degreasers, your oil paints, your engine cleaners, your drain cleaners. All of those items can be brought. Latex paint is one of those items that people do have a lot of. It can be brought, but you can also dry it out completely so that it's rock hard, and then it can go in your trash. So you don't need to bring that. You can also consolidate it. That's another tip for helping reduce your waste. You can consolidate like items. So if it's latex paint, it can go together with latex paint. If it's too much and you don't want to deal with it, you want to get rid of it, put it together into a gallon, and then you'll have fewer gallons because the costs are based on the number on the gallons. You can do that, but don't mix unlike items, and certainly not any other chemicals. So don't mix oil-based paint with latex paint. Those are some tips on keeping your costs down. The same with the fertilizers, I said. If it doesn't have pesticides in it, put it on your lawn. That's the best way to get rid of it. Or check and see if a neighbor has a use for items that you have. You're moving, check and see your neighbors can probably use your items that you've built up and stocked up. That's another possibility. But we're there for you when you need it, when you're leaving or you have somebody deceased that you need to clean up their house, clean up items, or you're worried about something that's going to spill, your pets or your animals or your children might get into. We're there available the first Wednesday following Saturday, 9 to 12.
As I recall, there, in case you get lost getting there a little bit, there's some directional signs that will bring you out to the back of
Some kind of a
Cook Street.
fluorescent-y, orangey green signs. And the simplest one right off of Main Street in Air at the what was called the Verbeck Gate. You come in there, it's the first left, straight up the hill. It's less than half of a mile, and you'll see it right there on the right.
Okay.
Easy.
Let's get back to the transfer station. Here we're dropping off all these recyclables, and we're putting off this trash over here. Where does it go from there?
Our trash goes to the Covanta Energy Plant up in Haverhill. They're a mass burn facility where they take the trash and put it into a, basically store it, and then they put it into a couple different burners, and it gets burned at a high temperature, and they create steam, and with the steam they create energy with their steam turbine. And then when they're done with the ash, they sift through it, get the metals out of it, and then they have an ash dump on site. And they're open basically 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They can accept 1,200 tons of trash a day at that facility. So most of their business is Monday through Friday, so they basically have to store trash for the weekend to keep the burners going.
And Tessa, the recyclables now, what are some of the vendors that pick them up? And then maybe you can actually expound a little bit more on some of the other products that are made from recyclables.
Oh, there's several haulers that come and pick the products around, and E.L. Harvey's one, and Waste Management, and
we use
metal is
integrated paper. We have Millis Industries takes our metal. We have a couple of battery vendors. We have people that come and grind our brush and turn that into, it either gets turned into mulch or they bring it up to the pulp plants for fuel, depending on how clean they are. So, I mean, it does kind of get recycled that way as well.
So the haulers come and pick up the material, and then it goes to vendors who then take the product, such as your plastic bottles, and either shred it up into pieces or pelletize it, so that then it's turned around and sold to other vendors who make amazing things, from building blocks to mixing. Actually, your plastic bottles, number one, will be mixed with Woods and Trex Corporation. We'll turn that into lumber that works very well in wet environments, doesn't degrade down. So that's another user of that. They'll also weave it and make bags and clothes out of it. This happens to be a lunch bag. And as I showed you before, they'll spin it and make fleece out of it there. The tin cans, metal will go back, mostly back into tin cans. The aluminum will be made into siding or other aluminum cans. And the glass, it goes right back here in Franklin. And the glass will also be made back into glass. That's one of the most highly recyclable, but it's very heavy. So it's a little costly to haul, but it's very recyclable. So that's the redeeming value for that. And it's interesting to learn when you go to the plants, you see what some of the enemies of each of them are from the manufacturing. And paper, we may have heard that for paper, glass is the enemy, because when they grind it, all the paper goes into a slurry, and then they make other products out of it, whether it be, if it's really nice fine white paper, it'll make the fronts of books, or more reamed paper where you'll see the recycled content. That's from your paper that you've recycled. If you have cardboard in there or cereal boxes, it'll make the inside of books, that board. And in fact, in Fitchburg, they made some of the first Harry Potter books covers out of that. So that was really exciting to know that your product right there at Fitchburg Mill was going into those Harry Potter books.
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that glass is also in asphalt, basically, to create more of a grip.
Some of the base underneath as well.
Yeah, they mix it in with the aggregates, and it's ground up pretty fine, so it doesn't really
it would
have
have
any
to be,
issues.
yeah.
They also use it for, to cover landfills, too, as part of the daily cover. They have to require to cover the trash and whatever they have, so they use it for that. There's 2 or 3 different things. I mean, there's a bunch of things they use it for.
Okay, Jim, is there anything that all of us can do to help maybe make the transfer station any more efficient than it is now? I mean, is there any more cooperation that you could use from us that you can think of?
The cleaner the products are when they're brought in for recycling, the better the market, and basically the easier it is to sort at the facility. So the better the job that the participants do, the better the product is at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work there. Chris and Phyllis?
Yes.
Are the 2 employees there?
Yes.
They're, every time I go there, they're just really, really busy.
It's a very busy facility. Saturday is obviously our busiest day. We get 1,000 customers a day, probably on a Saturday. And we're coming up to our busy season, Christmas, our busiest disposal days.
Yeah.
So with the holidays, if you get clothes and you're giving away and you have clothes that you no longer need, the textile bin is the perfect place for that. And so if you have something that you no longer like as well, but it doesn't have to be wearable. It can be torn, it can be stained, it can have a zipper missing, it can have a button missing. They'll find other uses for it as well, because like in Lynn, they have a cloth, a rag company who takes and cuts up all those items you have. The only requirement is it can't be wet. It cannot be wet, but they will cut the rags and make wiping cloths out of it and sell those. So every little piece that you have, they need. If it's not good enough for a rag, they'll shred it up into little pieces, and that's the filling in your furniture or in your bean bags. So they'll use that in the stuffed animals. They'll use that there. So every little piece that you have can be reused for another product, another purpose.
And Jim, we're kind of restricted a little bit in Littleton. If we had more room in there, we could do more.
Yeah, we absolutely could, but our transfer station has evolved over, I don't know, 15 or so years, maybe probably a little more than that. And again, they keep adding new markets, so we're really limited in the space, and I don't really see us moving in the foreseeable future to any other facility. So we try to maximize our space the best we can, and some of our design actually came from a volunteer that was on the recycling committee. He just had a different vision and of how to move containers around, and it actually worked out like excellent. It's just you look at it a certain way as an employee, and then someone with a new set of eyes comes in and changes your view, and it worked out pretty well.
It worked out really well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now the bags, we can still buy them at Agway, Abishan's Hardware, Common Convenience, Donald's Supermarket, Little Peach, Shaw's Supermarket in Groton.
Yes, yeah.
Any other places that we've added?
Littleton Lumber, did you have that?
Littleton, I don't have that here, no.
Yeah,
Littleton Lumber
Lumber's
as
on
well.
there as well.
Okay. All right. Tessa, any final thoughts?
I am amazed. Jim is talking about all the different containers and that they don't have room to grow, but really the growth is in what all you have and you bring. I'm just so impressed with what all people bring. And the more you do bring, the more it means jobs for Massachusetts residents as well, because those items go out there to the markets and that generates a reuse market. And there have been study after study showing that if you can reuse materials, it's so much less expensive than mining it and trying to find other sources for the virgin product. So I am continually impressed with what all people can set aside and recycle, and then not put into your trash bag, which you pay for. You don't have to pay for your recycling items, but then you have less in the trash, and it ends up turning into jobs,
Yeah.
which it's a win-win.
And I know even before our baggage system, I thought I was recycling, but now I'm just recycling everything, conceivable. So anyway.
The Littleton transfer station has an amazing number of, when you look at, you have your basic items, but there are all sorts of other items that you can recycle
Yeah,
there.
and we take
Explore
those
there.
for nothing.
Yeah.
The big metal bin?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, look, thank you both very much.
Thank you very much for having
I had a
us.
great time. Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
And we still have a little ways to go. We're going to go down to the transfer station now.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak!
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak!
Don't talk back.
Okay, I'm actually looking in this direction. It's where we used to have our landfill. And it's been capped. It's been many years now. You remember that. We used to throw almost everything away. But now, one person's trash is another's treasure. That's an old saying. I'm kind of stretching it here, but as Jim and Tessa pointed out to us, we are generating some cash from the recyclables and making different products from the recyclables. And as Jim pointed out, the waste that we are putting here is taken to Haverhill, converted to steam, and then converted to electricity. So yeah, there are treasures embedded in this trash. Well, look, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it, and see you next time.